Let's hit 10,000 subscribers, and I will give away $100 each week to one lucky subscriber. Now, let's begin our story. In the forgotten depths of a decrepit, ancient forest, the Harrison family bore the weight of an agonizing secret. 15 years had passed since their eldest daughter, Eliza, vanished into the heart of those sinister woods, leaving behind a void that could never be filled. The Harrisons had long since retreated from the limelight, hiding their grief behind closed doors. In the solitude of their remote cabin, they clung to their remaining hope, a vivacious 5-year-old girl named Lily, blissfully unaware of the darkness that lurked in the shadows of her family's history. One ominous evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the forest seemed to breathe with a life of its own, Lily played alone in the garden. Her laughter, so innocent, so pure, echoed through the air until it faltered, replaced by an eerie hush. A haunting voice, like the rustle of long-forgotten secrets, beckoned her from the wood's edge. Compelled by an unseen force, Lily followed the voice into the darkness of the forest. Each step felt like a descent into a nightmare. The trees loomed overhead, their gnarled branches clawing at the sky, and the earth beneath her feet seemed to pulse with an ancient malevolence. As she ventured deeper, her senses tingled with a growing unease. Finally, in a small clearing shrouded by the tangled canopy, Lily's eyes met the chilling gaze of a young woman, a mere specter of what she might have been. Lily gasped, her heart hammering in her chest, for the stranger bore an uncanny resemblance to the faded photograph of her missing sister Eliza, hidden away in an attic drawer. The spectral figure, Eliza, regarded her with hollow eyes, her voice like an icy wind whispering secrets never meant to be unearthed. She spoke of a hidden truth, revealing that the Harrison parents had known far more than they ever let on. Eliza's disappearance was no accident. It was a dark ritual, a sacrifice to protect the family from the malevolence that had taken root within her. Lily's world shattered as she pieced together the horrifying puzzle of her family's past. She understood the unbearable weight of her parents' guilt, the sinister choice they had made to preserve the life they had left. The forest closed in around her, an insidious force that sought to claim her. In the shadowy abyss, the truth emerged, and the Harrison family's sins were exposed, a torment that would haunt them for eternity. And as the forest swallowed her whole, Lily's innocent existence dissolved into the dark legacy of her family. In their isolation, they would forever grapple with the sinister secrets buried within, their lives a perpetual nightmare. As Lily delved deeper into the mysteries of the forest, she discovered a hidden journal that once belonged to her parents. Its pages revealed their desperate attempts to seal away the malevolent force that had taken hold of Eliza. The journal hinted at a ritual, a way to imprison the darkness forever. With newfound determination, Lily sought to complete the ritual, believing it to be the only way to free her family from the torment of Eliza's vengeful spirit. Guided by cryptic symbols and long-forgotten incantations, she led her parents to the very clearing where they had first encountered the darkness. The night was thick with tension as the ritual commenced. The forest itself seemed to resist their efforts, the very trees conspiring to thwart their intentions. Eliza's presence grew stronger, her spectral form materializing before them, a sinister embodiment of their past. In a climactic showdown, Lily, her parents, and the vengeful Eliza engaged in a battle of wills. The forest erupted in a storm of malevolence, with the fate of the Harrison family hanging in the balance. In a final desperate act, Lily recited the incantation, channeling the power of the ritual. The forest convulsed, and Eliza's form flickered and waned. With a final bone-chilling scream, she was sealed away, imprisoned within the very trees that had harbored her darkness for so long. The forest fell silent, the curse lifted, and the Harrison family was finally free from the nightmare that had haunted them for years. Their home was no longer a place of dread, and peace descended upon their lives. But the forest, now bereft of its sinister inhabitant, remained a place of shadows and secrets, a reminder of the darkness that could be unleashed by those who dared to venture too deep into its depths. As the years passed, the Harrison family returned to a semblance of normalcy, scarred but together. They knew that the forest would always hold its secrets, but they had paid the price for their actions, and they had learned that some mysteries were best left undisturbed. And so, the story of the Harrison family came to an end, a tale of darkness and redemption, a cautionary tale of the consequences of meddling with forces beyond our comprehension. The forest, once a place of fear, now stood as a testament to the enduring strength of a family's love and their ability to confront the darkest corners of their past. Remember, dear listener, that some secrets are born of darkness, lurking in the corners of our minds, waiting to consume us. The forest may seem tranquil, but within its depths, horrors unimaginable take root. Sweet dreams for the night hold terrors you can scarcely fathom. On a moonless night in the heart of the countryside, a lonely country road stretched into darkness. The air was thick with an eerie silence, broken only by the distant howling of wind through the trees. Mark, a weary traveler on his way home, was driving along this desolate road when he spotted a flicker of light up ahead. As he approached, he saw a woman standing beside her broken-down car, her face illuminated by the faint glow of her hazard lights. Her long, dark hair billowed in the night breeze, and her eyes reflected a mixture of desperation and fear. Mark felt a sense of obligation to help her. He pulled over and stepped out of his car, the gravel crunching beneath his feet. "Are you okay?" he asked, concern in his voice. The woman turned to him, her eyes wide with relief. "Oh, thank goodness you stopped. My car just died and I don't know what to do. I've been waiting here for hours." Mark offered a reassuring smile. "Don't worry, I'll take a look." He approached the woman's car, but as he leaned over the engine, he couldn't help but notice a strange, unsettling sensation. It was as if an icy hand had brushed against his neck, sending shivers down his spine. Ignoring it, he tried to diagnose the problem. Minutes turned into hours as Mark worked diligently to repair the car. The woman watched him intently, her eyes never leaving him. As he finally fixed the issue, he turned to her with a smile. "There, it should be running fine now." The woman's expression changed suddenly, her eyes filled with an unnatural darkness. "Thank you," she said, her voice taking on an eerie tone. "But I have one more request." Unease settled over Mark, but he couldn't refuse. "What is it?" "Could you give me a ride to the lake up ahead? I need to get there before sunrise." Mark hesitated for a moment, his instincts warning him of something amiss. Nonetheless, he agreed to help her further. She got into the car, and they continued down the road towards the lake. As they approached the lake, the atmosphere grew even more ominous. Mist rolled in from the water, obscuring the surroundings. The woman directed Mark to a remote spot by the shore, and he parked the car. "Now," she said, her voice colder than the night air. "I need you to close your eyes and count to 10. Mark obeyed, closing his eyes and counting slowly. When he opened them again, the woman was gone. Panic surged through him as he realized he was alone by the dark, silent lake. Suddenly, he felt a presence in the back seat of his car. He turned to see the woman's ghostly figure, her eyes filled with a haunting, malevolent energy. Mark screamed and tried to flee, but his car's engine roared to life, accelerating uncontrollably towards the lake. As the car plunged into the icy waters, Mark's last vision was of the woman's ghostly form, her twisted smile reflected in the rearview mirror. The car sank beneath the surface, and Mark's desperate gasps for air were silenced by the cold embrace of the lake. From that night on, locals spoke of the haunted lake and the ghostly woman who lured unsuspecting travelers to their doom. Mark's fate served as a chilling reminder never to stop on that desolate country road at night, for the horrors that lurked in the darkness were far more terrifying than anyone could imagine. Years passed, and the legend of the haunted lake grew, casting a shadow of fear over the countryside. Travelers avoided the lonely country road, and those who dared to venture near the lake did so with trepidation. But the story didn't end with Mark's tragic demise. His spirit, restless and tormented, found no peace at the bottom of the lake. Instead, it was said that he roamed the shoreline, a phantom figure searching for answers and seeking revenge against the malevolent spirit that had ensnared him. Local residents shared eerie tales of encounters with Mark's ghost. Some claimed to have seen a pale, soaked figure walking along the water's edge, his eyes filled with despair. Others reported hearing anguished cries and mournful wails echoing in the dead of night, as if the very air itself carried Mark's torment. As for the vengeful spirit that had caused Mark's tragic end, it seemed her malevolence knew no bounds. She continued to appear on the country road, her dark hair billowing in the wind, her eyes reflecting a sinister intent. Her reputation as a malevolent entity grew, and her name became synonymous with dread among the locals. One fateful evening, a group of thrill-seekers decided to investigate the legend of the haunted lake. Armed with cameras and recording equipment, they ventured to the forsaken spot where Mark had met his doom. They had heard the stories, and they were determined to capture evidence of the supernatural. As they approached the lake, the mist thickened, and the atmosphere grew oppressively cold. They set up their equipment and began their investigation, calling out to the spirits that were said to haunt the area. It wasn't long before they felt a chilling presence, an otherworldly energy that sent shivers down their spines. Suddenly, Mark's ghostly figure materialized before them, his eyes filled with a mixture of anguish and anger. He beckoned for them to follow him, leading them towards the water's edge. The thrill-seekers, consumed by fear and curiosity, followed. As they reached the shore, the malevolent spirit appeared, her presence even more ominous than the tales had described. She let out a blood-curdling scream, her dark intentions clear. It was a terrifying showdown between the vengeful specter and Mark's tormented soul. The cameras rolled, capturing the eerie confrontation as it unfolded. Mark's ghostly figure confronted the malevolent spirit, his determination to find closure evident. In the ensuing struggle, a blinding flash of light engulfed them both, and a deafening roar echoed across the lake. When the light subsided, the malevolent spirit was gone, vanquished by the combined energy of Mark's restless soul and the courageous thrill-seekers who had come seeking the truth. Mark's ghost, finally at peace, gave them a sorrowful smile before slowly fading away, his purpose fulfilled. The legend of the haunted lake endured, but its malevolent presence was no more. The countryside road, once shrouded in fear, gradually regained its tranquility. Travelers ventured down that path once again, with the knowledge that the darkness had been banished and that the restless spirit of Mark had found the peace he so desperately sought. And so, the story of the haunted lake became a cautionary tale, a reminder of the power of malevolence, the resilience of the human spirit, and the importance of seeking closure in the face of darkness. Chapter 1. The Odd Arrival. In the bustling world of fast food service, routines were essential. The employees at Benny's Burger Barn had their set patterns, clocking in, flipping burgers, and serving fries like a well-oiled machine. But among them, there was one anomaly: Jimmy. He had a peculiar way of going about his work, setting him apart from the rest. Jimmy was always the first to arrive at Benny's, no matter the weather or the ungodly hour. His colleagues couldn't fathom why he insisted on getting there so early. Some whispered that he might be trying to impress the boss, while others dismissed it as mere eccentricity. But there was more to Jimmy than met the eye. Dressed in clothes that seemed to have survived a food fight, Jimmy's appearance was far from the pristine uniforms of his co-workers. His hair was a perpetual tangle, as though it hadn't met a comb in years. But it wasn't just his unkempt exterior that set him apart. It was the peculiar odor that clung to him like an unwanted guest. As the sun rose over Benny's Burger Barn, the question lingered in the minds of the employees. What was it about Jimmy that made him such an oddity in their well-ordered fast food world? Little did they know that the answers to their suspicions were about to unfold most horrifyingly. Chapter 2. Messy attire, unkempt hair. Every day at Benny's Burger Barn, the employees donned their crisp uniforms, their hair neatly tied back, and their appearance reflected the brand's cleanliness and professionalism. But Jimmy defied these expectations. While his colleagues presented themselves with care, he seemed indifferent to his appearance. Jimmy's attire was a patchwork of stains and wrinkles, as if he had never bothered to change his clothes. His shirt bore the splatters of countless condiments, and his once white apron had turned a greasy shade of gray. The other employees couldn't help but exchange glances when he shuffled in, a living contradiction to the fastidious standards of their workplace. His hair was another point of contention. While everyone else adhered to the strict rule of keeping their hair tidy and contained, Jimmy's locks cascaded haphazardly, as though they had never met the embrace of a comb. It was as if he reveled in his unkempt appearance, a silent rebellion against the norms of Benny's Burger Barn. To his co-workers, it was baffling. How could someone disregard the basic standards of personal hygiene and presentation in a place where food safety and cleanliness are paramount? Little did they know that Jimmy's disregard for appearance was just the tip of the iceberg, and his secrets went far deeper than his disheveled exterior. Chapter 3. A Pungent Presence. While Jimmy's unkempt attire and disheveled hair were certainly strange, it was his distinctive odor that left the most lasting impression on those who worked alongside him at Benny's Burger Barn. A noxious combination of sweat, grease, and something far more sinister clung to him like a malevolent aura. It was a stench that permeated the air, forcing his colleagues to hold their breath when he passed by. The smell was so overpowering that customers began to complain. Some questioned the hygiene standards of the restaurant, while others simply vowed never to return. The management had no choice but to address the issue, but confronting Jimmy about his hygiene was a challenge no one wanted to undertake. Whenever someone tried to broach the subject with Jimmy, he would simply brush it off with a dismissive wave of his hand and a muttered excuse. He claimed that he had a condition that caused excessive perspiration and that he couldn't help it. His co-workers were left to suffer in silence, their nostrils assaulted by the pungent cloud that seemed to follow him wherever he went. The more time they spent in Jimmy's company, the more his peculiar odor became an unavoidable part of their daily lives. It was a foul presence that clung to their clothes, invaded their senses, and gnawed at their patience. Little did they know, this oppressive scent was just one layer of the mystery that surrounded their odd colleague. Chapter 4. The Garbage Duty Obsession. As if his peculiar attire and offensive odor weren't enough, Jimmy had one more idiosyncrasy that set him apart from the rest of Benny's Burger Barn crew. He had an unwavering obsession with garbage duty. While most employees viewed taking out the trash as a necessary but mundane task, Jimmy treated it like a sacred ritual. Without fail, Jimmy would volunteer for the garbage duty at the beginning and end of each shift. It was as though he derived a strange sense of satisfaction from hauling the heavy bags of refuse to the dumpster out back. His co-workers found this behavior bizarre, but they were more than happy to let him handle the dirty work. What puzzled them even more was the fact that Jimmy never allowed anyone else to take out the trash. If a colleague offered to help or take over the chore, he would become strangely defensive, insisting that he had it under control. It was as if he had a personal attachment to the garbage that defied explanation. The other employees couldn't understand why Jimmy was so possessive about a task that they considered menial. But little did they realize that this obsession with the garbage duty was the key to unraveling the unsettling mysteries that surrounded their enigmatic coworker. It was a puzzle that one of them was determined to solve. Chapter 5. Tom's suspicion grows. Among the employees at Benny's Burger Barn, Tom was the one who couldn't shake off the eerie feeling that something was terribly wrong with Jimmy. It wasn't just the messy attire, the unkempt hair, or the overpowering odor that made him suspicious. It was the way Jimmy clung to the garbage duty as if his life depended on it. Tom had always been the observant type, and his intuition told him that there was more to Jimmy's behavior than met the eye. He began to watch his coworker more closely, noting the way Jimmy's eyes darted around nervously when he thought no one was looking, and how he always seemed to have something to hide. One evening, after their shift had ended, Tom decided to follow Jimmy. He had to know what was going on. As he trailed his coworker through the dimly lit streets, he couldn't help but feel a growing sense of dread. It was as if he was delving into a mystery that he might not be prepared to unravel. Jimmy led Tom to a desolate alley behind the restaurant, where the overflowing dumpster awaited its nightly ritual. As Jimmy began to lift the lid, Tom watched in silent anticipation. What he saw next would haunt him forever, confirming his darkest suspicions about their odd colleague. Chapter 6: A Trail of Secrets. In the dimly lit alley behind Benny's Burger Barn, Tom's heart pounded like a drum as he watched Jimmy wrestle with the heavy lid of the overflowing dumpster. With a sickening creak, the lid was lifted, revealing a grotesque sight that sent a shiver down Tom's spine. Among the discarded food containers and empty condiment packets were unmistakable shapes, human limbs. Tom's breath caught in his throat as he realized the horrifying truth. Jimmy was disposing of something far more sinister than food scraps in the dumpster. The shock of the revelation was almost too much to bear. His mind raced as he tried to make sense of the macabre scene unfolding before him. As Jimmy hurriedly dumped a bag into the dumpster and closed the lid, Tom knew he had to gather evidence. He snapped a quick photo with his phone, capturing the damning image of the severed limbs hidden among the garbage. It was a piece of a puzzle that was becoming increasingly disturbing. But Tom couldn't confront Jimmy just yet. He needed more proof. He decided to discreetly gather information, hoping to uncover the extent of Jimmy's gruesome secret. Little did he know that delving deeper into the mysteries of his co-worker would lead him down a nightmarish path of horror and intrigue. Chapter 7: The Dark Discovery. As Tom delved deeper into his investigation of Jimmy, he couldn't shake the feeling that he was unraveling a web of darkness that stretched far beyond his worst nightmares. The photograph he had taken in the alley was just the beginning. He started to dig into Jimmy's background, searching for any clues that might shed light on the bizarre and unsettling discoveries he had made. What he found was deeply unsettling. Jimmy had a history of moving from one fast food restaurant to another, never staying in one place for too long. Co-workers from his previous jobs described him as odd and reclusive, always keeping to himself. But there were also whispers of strange occurrences and unsettling incidents linked to the restaurants where Jimmy had worked. Tom couldn't ignore the eerie pattern he was uncovering. He decided to discreetly gather information, hoping to uncover the extent of Jimmy's unusual behavior. Little did he know that delving deeper into the mysteries of his co-worker would lead him down a nightmarish path of fear and intrigue, revealing shocking truths that defied explanation. Chapter 8: Unearthing Jimmy's Horrifying Deeds. The unsettling history Tom had uncovered about Jimmy sent shivers down his spine, but he couldn't turn away from the disturbing puzzle that was taking shape. It was as though Jimmy had carried with him a dark cloud of mystery and dread throughout his previous employment at various fast food establishments. Tom felt a growing responsibility to uncover the truth behind his enigmatic co-worker. As the news of the macabre findings in the dumpster at Benny's Burger Barn spread, the authorities launched a massive manhunt for Jimmy. Tom's involvement in the case intensified, and he was haunted by the knowledge that he had worked alongside a man responsible for unspeakable horrors. The guilt and fear gnawed at him, but he was determined to help bring Jimmy to justice and find answers to the questions that haunted him. Investigators began to piece together the disturbing pattern of Jimmy's movements, and it became clear that he had meticulously covered his tracks, leaving no trace of his victims or his own identity. It was as if he had operated in the shadows, concealing his true nature behind the facade of a seemingly ordinary fast food worker. The hunt for Jimmy intensified, and the community remained on edge, gripped by the fear that he might still be out there, hiding in plain sight. The question loomed large. Where was Jimmy, and what drove him to commit such unsettling acts? The answers remained elusive, buried beneath layers of darkness and deception, as Tom and the investigators continued their relentless pursuit of the truth. Chapter 9: The Grisly Truth. Unveiled. As the manhunt for Jimmy intensified, Tom and the investigators delved deeper into the unsettling mysteries that surrounded their enigmatic co-worker. became apparent that Jimmy had left a trail of fear and confusion in every place he had worked. Co-workers from his previous jobs described him as an odd and reclusive figure. Strange occurrences and unsettling incidents seemed to follow in his wake. Tom's determination to uncover the truth only grew stronger as he learned more about Jimmy's unsettling past. He couldn't rest until he understood the full extent of his co-workers' dark secrets and the horrors that had been hidden behind the scenes at Benny's Burger Barn. The authorities sifted through the evidence with meticulous care, piecing together the fragments of a chilling puzzle. The horrifying truth began to emerge, revealing a pattern of malevolent actions and shocking depravity that defied explanation. It was a nightmare that had played out in the shadows, hidden behind the facade of a seemingly ordinary fast food worker. As the investigation drew closer to its conclusion, the community remained gripped by fear and unease, haunted by the possibility that Jimmy might still be at large. The question loomed large. Where was Jimmy, and what had driven him to commit such unspeakable acts? The answers were both chilling and elusive, casting a long shadow over the once ordinary fast food restaurant that had become the epicenter of a horrifying revelation. Chapter 10: Shadows of a Dark Legacy. The manhunt for Jimmy reached a relentless climax as authorities closed in on their elusive target. The community remained on edge, anxiously awaiting the resolution of the chilling case that had disrupted their lives. Tom, now deeply entwined in the investigation, couldn't escape the lingering sense of dread that had settled over Benny's Burger Barn. Finally, the breakthrough came. Jimmy was apprehended, his dark secrets laid bare for the world to see. As the evidence against him was presented, a shroud of horror descended upon the courtroom. The stories of his bizarre behavior, the gruesome discoveries in the dumpster, and his unsettling past sent shockwaves through the audience. In the end, Jimmy was found guilty of heinous crimes beyond imagination. He was sentenced to a life of imprisonment, ensuring that he would never again pose a threat to society. But the shadows of his dark legacy continued to haunt the memories of those who had crossed paths with him. The community, scarred by the revelation of the horrors that had unfolded in their midst, sought solace in the knowledge that justice had been served. Benny's Burger Barn, once a symbol of fast food normalcy, became a somber reminder that darkness could lurk in even the most ordinary of places. The questions lingered. What had driven Jimmy to commit such unspeakable acts? And could anyone ever truly understand the depths of his malevolence? It was a chilling tale that would forever haunt the collective consciousness of those who had witnessed the sinister secrets hidden behind the counter of a seemingly innocuous fast food joint. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button for me and like this video. Keep it creepy and see you next time.